as simple to other people as it is to me.
Okay.
Basically, am I Jewish? Is what the question is.
Right. Okay. Well.
So obviously not simple for everybody, right? But I thought in my situation there was a pretty easy answer.
Okay.
So I don't know.
First of all, before we get started on any of that, tell me about you. Who are you? Where do you come from?
Well, right. That's.
I mean, presently.
I'm a graduate student at UT.
Okay.
I moved here about 3 years ago after I finished college at Purdue.
Okay.
For a job with a lab at UT. And through that, I applied to the school and started going to school and eventually left the job. And now I'm full-time as an electrical engineer, graduate student.
Mazel tov. So that's great.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not really sure where I'm going with it, but that's what I'm doing for now. I was born and raised in Chicago.
Okay. Cool.
So I guess that's...
I assume you're single?
Yes.
Okay. I would think that being an electrical engineer would have just like unlimited vistas.
Sure, yeah, it does. It's just that I don't know which of them appeal to me.
Well, good. Well, enjoy the exploration. Try to tamp down the angst and enjoy the ride.
That's what I'm trying to do right now because I had this job,
yeah.
Which was really a pretty good job. It was not really incredibly prestigious or anything, but it was pretty well paying, stable job. And then I got an opportunity to work for Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory.
Yeah.
As a GRA, and so I decided to explore.
No kidding.
And so I don't know how much interest they have in me, so I don't know if this will end soon or if it'll continue into a new job or what, but, exploring, basically.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah. Thank you.
What a great point. What a great time of life. Okay, so now we'll get back to the Jewish part of you. Tell me about, are both of your parents Jewish?
No.
Okay. Which is which?
My father is Jewish.
Okay.
He, born to Jewish parents and raised Jewish in, pretty much every sense you could expect.
Okay.
If you were to ask me, what, I don't know if denomination is the right term, but I'm not really sure about that because it just wasn't a huge part of, my childhood and my relationship with my parents. My mother was raised Catholic, and I actually, after I started thinking about these things recently, I called my parents to ask them about it. I found out that when I was about 10 and my brother was about 8, they decided to start what they call the Church of the Month Club. So they could, expose us to different religions and, let us just see what exists and, think about it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it turned out we went to one of these and then stopped. I don't know.
It's not exactly the Church of the Month, but...
Right. I don't know if that was because me and my brother didn't enjoy it or my parents didn't think it was worth the effort or whatever, but it sort of gives you an idea of my parents' outlook.
Okay, so let me ask you something. When were you raised as not affiliated in any way with any religion, but still having a sense that there's a God, or was this just not a subject of discussion at all?
In terms of any kind of spirituality, it was never brought up by my parents.
Okay. What did any interaction with grandparents about this stuff? I mean, did you go to your grandparents and light Hanukkah candles or anything like that?
Yeah. So I had my mom's family was a lot bigger and more local than my dad's. My dad's family, for some reason, they were older, more spread out. They're around the country. My mom's family is all in Chicago.
Ah.
So we would have a big, like, Christmas gathering, but it was, like, a tree and presents. Mm-hmm. There was no, we didn't go to Mass or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then we would have, a little family Hanukkah celebration, and then we would have Passover dinners. Oh. Usually every year with the few people in my dad's family that were still around. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you would really call that, a religious gathering, but it was definitely, had more aspects, I would say more aspects of Jewish tradition than anything I was exposed to relating to Christianity in any way.
Okay.
And, I don't say that makes me Jewish. It's just, it's a fact that that's part of my history.
Okay.
A couple of my cousins' bar mitzvahs when I was really little, because they're 8-10 years older than me, so I didn't really.
That's not a defining moment.
Right.
But you never did Yom Kippur or anything like that. Never stayed home from school for Yom Kippur or anything like that. Okay. Before I give you your answer, tell me why you're asking the question.
That's right. That's why it came up. Just an interesting anecdote that some people enjoy. I'll share it. My father's Jewish. My mother's raised Catholic. My brother had a bar mitzvah, and then he went to a Catholic high school for 2 years. And
wait. Let's back up for a second. If he had, in what sense did he have? If your parents weren't affiliated with a synagogue, he found an independent rabbi and learned the blessings, or do you have any? You may not have a recollection of this at all.
No, I don't remember all the details. But my dad has a childhood friend moved to the town that we lived in, Oak Park, when we a few years after we moved there. A lot of people seem to.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising to me, but. So he has a childhood friend who is Jewish and raising his children Jewish, and they attend services. I don't know how frequently, but more than my father does. And so I think it was their temple. So I don't know what kind of relationship my dad had with.
Oh, so they worked out a little deal with
something like that. It was kind of weird because my brother, for some reason, he decided when he was like a few months shy of 12 years old that he wanted to have a bar mitzvah after not really having any.
Interesting. Okay.
And somehow it worked out, and I remember being there, but I wasn't, with him through the whole thing.
Okay.
Anyway, I just I've always thought that was kind of a funny.
Yes, it is.
I didn't.
It's kind of like you tell me this entire secular thing for life, and then all of a sudden, and by the way, my brother had a bar mitzvah. Like, wow, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's kind of strange. And he's 2 years younger than me, and then I have a third brother who's 11 years younger than me, and he's, as far as I know, he actually asked my dad very recently, within the last few months, if he could go to the temple. But I haven't heard any of the follow-up on that, so I'm not sure. But that would mean he's 15 now, so no traditional bar mitzvah for him, at least. Anyway, so I'm 26, and that is the age limit for the birthright trip.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mother brought that to my attention actually a few years ago, that I was still able to take that trip.
Probably hearing no end of why are you now waiting to find this out?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really talked to too many people about it, so I'm not really getting a lot of flack, but I understand. I mean.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked the question. Why are you asking? Because there's two different worlds, okay? Who gets to go on a birthright trip is not the definition of a halakhic Jew.
No, and I think there's a lot of different worlds that you could use to answer that question. And I've already got my answer they've accepted me for the trip.
I was going to say, as far as birthright is concerned, you're Jewish.
Right.
You're eligible one Jewish parent will get you on the birthright trip.
Right. And so I guess maybe it would have still been simpler to me, except I was filling out the application online. It said, "Are you Jewish?" I didn't know what that meant, so I said no, because I wanted to give the most conservative answers.
Right.
To be honest with them.
Yeah.
And then after the hour-long interview with Margot, she was just seemed to be kind of fascinated with my, as she put it, my thoughtfulness, because she said most kids applying for this trip just say yes, don't put any thought into the meaning of it. A lot of them probably.
Yeah, I'm sure they get very few where the no box is checked.
Right.
They have to ask the question because it's part of the criteria.
Right.
But I'm sure they get like 99% that check yes.
Right. So, anyway, the real reason that I started thinking about it was that after applying to this and talking to Margot about it, I mentioned to a friend who, to be honest, has, I don't think, very much experience with anything Jewish, but she thought it was inappropriate of me to be applying for the trip. And then she said, usually when people ask me, are you Jewish? Once in a while.
Alan Bernstein.
Right. And I have really curly hair when it's a little bit longer, so it's a fair assumption, I guess. And I usually answer no, again, because
that's the appropriate answer.
But if I'm with somebody that I know well enough, I won't say no, I won't say yes, I'll say that question does not have a simple answer because I don't know if you're talking about my religion or my culture or my upbringing or what. So
it's a very intelligent response.
All of these things, right? And so this friend of mine, her name is Shalon.
Israeli?
No, she's Sri Lankan.
Ah, okay.
I've said to her, I'm not Jewish in the past. Probably several times, just, because that's what I say. And then I told her I was applying to this trip, and she kind of got mad at me because she thought I was going back on what I'd said. All of a sudden you are Jewish and you can go on this trip after, the years that you've known me saying, no, you're not. And so I, launched into this explanation, which I hadn't tried to give to her before, and she just kind of disagreed with everything I had to say. And most other people I've talked to have thought that my response to that question is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, look, let's deal with the ethical issue here. Your ethics are perfectly fine.
As far as the trip is concerned?
Yeah.
Right.
You answered the question appropriately. You explained the situation to Margot. Margot made a judgment. You're on the trip. Okay? The trip is designed not only for people who have been raised as Jews, but people who are within what I call the Jewish world, who need to go to Israel. Okay? That's what it's there for. There's not you're not usurping a seat for a Jewish kid. There is nothing close to it. Okay? That's the whole point of this. You are potentially what I would call a Baal Teshuvah. Okay? Baal Teshuvah is someone who's on the journey to returning to Judaism. Okay?
I noticed you said potentially.
Potentially, right. Okay, but you're on the journey. You may not get there. Let me try to give you some ideas here as to what your status is in the Jewish world. Okay? I've used the term a couple of times without explaining it, which is halakha. Halakha is the Jewish word or Hebrew word for Jewish law. There's an entire structure of Jewish law, okay, that really governs every aspect of life. And within the Jewish world, that law has authority. If you're Orthodox, which is the most traditional realm, that law has extreme authority. I mean, like, it's the law. That's how you live. Obviously you comply with the laws of the state in which you live. But in terms of human interaction, in terms of what goes on in the Jewish community, in terms of who's recognized as being Jewish, halakha is the determining factor. Okay? In the Reform world where I operate, halakha is advisory, but not necessarily binding. Okay? And you'll see how that plays out in your case in a minute. In the conservative world, which is kind of in between, it's more binding than the Reform, but not as binding as the Orthodox. Okay. Halakhically, you are not Jewish.
Mm.
Okay? You need to be born of a Jewish mother. I'm sure you know this by now.
Right.
In order to be Jewish. Okay? So, as far as an Orthodox authority would be concerned, okay, say if you went over and saw Rabbi Johnson over at Chabad, okay, I think his response would be, you're not Jewish, but that doesn't mean that you can't be part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And begin down that road as a convert to Judaism. Okay? And in general, that's the answer in the Jewish world. There's one small wrinkle, and that is that in the American Reform practice, people who are born of a Jewish father but not a Jewish mother are accepted as Jews. Wait, I get there's a punchline to it. Okay? But only if they're raised as Jews and have a bar mitzvah. The bar mitzvah serves as the conversion. Okay? That's a little known fact. People out there, this is like Christians who go around thinking that all their sins are forgiven no matter what they do. It's a total misnomer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people wandering around out there that think that Reform Judaism accepts patrilineal descent the same way as if you were born of a Jewish mother. And that's not what it says. You have to be raised as a Jew. So you don't qualify under that one either. Okay? And truthfully, if your brother was sitting here, even though he had a bar mitzvah, he didn't, it was like, he slipped it in there someplace. Right. I'm not sure I would consider that. Okay? Be that as it may, that's not a criticism of the rabbi out there. He was trying to do a good thing. What I would view this trip to Israel is a beginning of your exploration of who you are spiritually. That's the reason that Birthright wants you to go.
That makes sense to me. I think the way that it was put by Margot is a little bit different. I guess just that she said, quote, "This is not a religious trip," and I think, it's what any individual wants to make of it, mostly. Right. So it could be. That's
right, and she's absolutely right. It's not a religious trip, but one of the things.
It's an opportunity for a religious trip.
It's an opportunity, and what you're going to. I'll predict this. What you're going to find is Israel. There's going to be a part of you that you've not felt before, or maybe only felt minimally, that will tell you this is home. As bizarre as that sounds, when you're in Israel, and I've seen in a lot of cases, there's an awakening of like, wow, it's not, this ain't, it doesn't happen when you go to Italy. That there's this different feeling about being in this place that I have a part of this.
So, it does sound foreign to me, but I don't think, if I felt like I was able to speculate about what the trip would be like for me, then I wouldn't think it would be worth going. So I don't.
Right, and I'm not telling you to do that.
Right.
Well, I'm saying that the reason I said it can be the beginning of a spiritual journey is that if you have the experience of going to Israel and feeling attached to that place on some level besides just interest, that tells you that whatever went on in your childhood, something was communicated to you about having a place in the Jewish world, and that you may want to explore that aspect of your being. That you are among the Jewish people. You feel things when you're in Israel. It's not just any old foreign country. It's someplace special to you. Even if you can't articulate it. It just feels different. I would say that is a signal to you that this is an area of your being that you want to explore. You can go and say, that's a really interesting place, and I like it, but next time Switzerland. And there's no particular resonance at all. Fine. That also doesn't mean when you come back you wouldn't say, but I still think I want to explore my Jewish roots. There's all kinds of connections to Judaism. Okay, not going to if not going to temple was the criteria, then there'd be 10 Jews left. That people have all different connections to Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
They have cultural connections. They have intellectual connections. They do have spiritual connections, a lot of them. But how even the spiritual part plays out is different from person to person. This is not a religion that here. And I'm sure if there was a priest sitting here, particularly, they disagree. But this is where Judaism, to me, is different than Christianity. In that you can be Christian by being a nice person and going to church on Sunday. In this society, you don't even have to go to church on Sunday because the society is predominantly Christian. I mean, you're kind of Christian, unless you opt out of being Christian in America, you really are kind of absorbed as socially Christian because the place runs on a Christian calendar. I mean, and that's the flip-flop in Israel. In Israel, you're kind of caught up in being Jewish because you really have no choice unless you opt out.
Right.
So
I assume that's the reason that, to me, the concept of being culturally Jewish is meaningful. Like, culturally Christian doesn't mean anything in our society, I don't think. So I agree with you.
I think that's right. And you'll find, and this can be part of an early exploration of where is my place in the Jewish world? Is it and if I'm to pursue being Jewish in a halakhic sense, meaning that going through a conversion process. And I will tell you that the question you're asking is a very complex one because there are different entree points into the Jewish world as a convert. Some are accepted by all elements of Judaism, others are not. But that's a way in the future conversation. What you can be looking for in this trip is, do I feel I want to be a part of this people in an active way? You already are. I mean, you told me that you had what you call Passover dinners. If they told any part of the story of the Exodus, it's called a Seder. They just had dinner, yeah. But
no, they did. I mean, it was a Seder.
Okay.
I know that term.
Okay.
I said.
So you had a Seder. You've done Hanukkah candles. Something compelled your parents to want your brother to have a bar mitzvah, and that didn't happen on a Tuesday, and there was an awakening. I'd be willing to bet if I went back and you were able to look through this, there were little things along the way that just never stuck or weren't impressive to you that were always out there. And it's just time. I mean, it's bubbled up in you. This is an opportunity. I find it fascinating. Your mother was the one who was pushing you, but this is an opportunity to explore that aspect of yourself. And just take it for that. When you come back, you'll decide if you want to, take a class here, take a class there, and then show up at a synagogue once in a while, maybe come up and be part of the, we have a young adult division of people at the JC, Jewish Community Association, and they're not affiliated with any synagogues. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But basically, they do stuff amongst themselves of a usually intellectual and social nature. I much as I love David Komorowski, I'm not sure that Hillel does much for graduate students. I may be totally wrong about that. But there are speakers there. I mean, even if you're not going to get involved, keep an eye out for speakers that are coming to campus. We're going to do a thing in partnership with the Schusterman Department of Jewish Studies. They bring in people all the time. See what resonates with you. Are you Jewish? No. Do you have a place in the Jewish world? Yes. If you want to claim it. Mm-hmm. I hope that, does that make...
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, that's kind of what I was expecting to hear. Just wanted to hear it from somebody with more authority than myself. Because I don't, you have that.
I've got books. It's like the Wizard of Oz. I've got a diploma.
Well, I mean,
no, and that's really where you are, and you know you're just going to have to decide where you want to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Clarence Livermore Labs? Is it Palo Alto?
The town it's in is called Livermore, which is just outside of San Francisco.
Okay.
It's a square mile campus, and the entire town is just, people that live there and do, or that work there, and people that do like maintenance and everything. So
because the reason I asked was because if you go out there, one of the great synagogues in the country is in Palo Alto.
Really?
Yeah, there's a great congregation, Beth Ami. Can't remember if that's the name or not, but the rabbi out there, Janet Martyr, is an amazing rabbi. And one of my classmates is an assistant or associate rabbi out there, and it's just a cool synagogue.
I may be going there sometime around Christmas.
I would urge you to drop in. People are always welcome. Mm-hmm. See what it's like. Maybe you'll be lucky and it'll be the Hanukkah celebration. There'll be all kinds of cockabally stuff going on. But when are you going to go to Israel?
Right now, I'm signed up for the winter trip. It's the middle of December.
Okay.
I may, if I don't go on that, the only other one I can with UT Hillel at least is the next summer. And I may not be able to go in the winter. But
if you can go on the winter trip, I'd recommend it.
Really?
Yeah. Israel, Jerusalem gets cold. Okay, seriously. I mean, you have to pack a variety of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you're in the desert, it's moderate. You can get sweater weather at worst. Jerusalem, you gotta bundle up a little bit because it's on a mountain. But the country's temperatures generally are moderate, so it's comfortable to tour. In the summertime, it's a bitch. I mean, it gets hot.
Okay.
I don't like. Having been there, we lived there for a year, and I really didn't like the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's very dry. There's no humidity, but you constantly have to be drinking water for exactly that reason. You don't realize the amount of water you're losing.
Yeah. How does it compare to summer here?
It doesn't get. It's not in the 3 digits. It's still in the 90s,
mm-hmm.
but it's in the 90s consistently.
Yeah.
And Jerusalem cools off at night. That's a big difference. Jerusalem does cool off at night, but the Negev doesn't, and Tel Aviv doesn't. And the other reason is climate-wise, I like it better. But the other reason is there are a lot fewer tourists around.
Okay.
And it's easier to get to places. Summertime, places jammed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, that's just a personal preference.
Yeah. And somebody else also recommended that, I think, having only been there during the winter. But that's that.
Yeah, and when I was 18 or 19, my family went on a 10-day trip around in the wintertime, a winter vacation. And other than the fact that I was a dope and didn't listen to anybody else who told me that it gets cold in Jerusalem and didn't pack appropriately. Hey, it's Israel. Well, there's every picture I've ever seen of Israel was hot. So I'm an idiot. So other than that, it was just terrific. You're going to have when you go, you're just going to have a great time. You're going to meet some cool people.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard only good things about the trip. I've heard that it's kind of a, excursion away from authority for the 18 and 19-year-olds that go on the trip, and it'll be a little bit different for me and maybe 1 or 2 other people my age. But I mean, that doesn't bother me or anything.
Yeah.
Just,
our daughter was your age when she went, and she went on a trip with. There was she tried to get on a trip that was primarily graduate students and didn't do it, and she said it just didn't matter. Everybody just had a good time together.
Yeah.
So and Margot's right. This is not a religious trip. This is about connecting with Israel as a nation and connecting with Jewish culture, and seeing some things that are just history. If nothing else, you're going to see stuff that is just old and impactful on Western society.
Right.
And it'll just be fascinating for you. Plus, as an engineer, I know you're not. You're an electrical engineer. There's a real shortage of electricity in ancient Israel, but see some of the things that were built with nothing is just fascinating.
That's no small component of my interest, but I mean,
it's just amazing to see this stuff and to see the archaeological things and then imagine what it once was like. Mm-hmm. So anyway, you'll have a great time.
Yeah, I certainly hope to.
But to reassure you, ethically you're in exactly the right place. Your understanding of who you are status-wise in the Jewish world is exactly on point. And it's now going to be your decision as to where you want to go, what you want to do with that and where you want to go with it. Mm-hmm. And I want to assure you, in this community particularly, every opportunity is open to you. There is absolutely nothing the Jewish community does that you are not invited to and welcome to. Anything you ever see on the Shalom Austin website that you want to be part of, anything, we've got a book fair coming up with all kinds of speakers coming in. There's a Jewish film festival in the spring. There'll be there's periodic scholars in residence. There's always services, of course, every Friday night and Saturday morning. There's introduction to Judaism classes. And all of them you are absolutely welcome to without hesitancy, without qualification. And just, take your time and figure out where you belong.
Okay.
And, at some point down the line, you feel like talking about conversion, that's cool. But it's down the line.
Right. Okay. Well, you've pretty handily defeated all the questions I had.
Okay. No, I'm thrilled that you're going to Israel. I think it's great. It's a wonderful decision.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll be interested when you get back. I want you to call me when you get back and tell me about the experience, not just the trip, but the experience.
Is that even if it's negative, not in the sense of bad, but
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because just to keep in touch.
Okay.
That's definitely cool.
Sure, I will.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, I think that's about it then.
Okay.
So, thank you for your time.
Not at all. My pleasure. Thank you for wanting to get the answers to a complex question. You could have just blown it off and said, "I got to see it on the plane. I don't know what it is."
I guess. Thank you. I was this conversation with Margot. I don't remember exactly how she put it, but something like, he said, "Thank you for wanting the answer to a complex question." And she got the impression that I always want the complex answer instead of the simple one. And I think that's probably one of the defining aspects of my personality.
It's good. I think we've unfortunately stumbled into a time in our social history where nuance is looked down upon, and where simple answers are, if you can't say it in 5 words and put it on a bumper sticker, then it's not worth saying. And that's not the way the world is. And nuance is taken for softness or that wonderful expression of flip-flopper. Right. If you can see both sides of the issue and you see it's a complex thing, that's bad. You have to be this way.
So yeah, it's a bad thing to completely do away with it, but it makes me indecisive in a lot of cases. So there's a good side and a bad side of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to see all the information at the very least.
Yeah, you have to still make decisions, but it's good to see that everything is not black and white.
Right.
And because it leaves the very interesting piece of knowledge. Decisions have consequences. And when you make a decision, you go down one path or the other, as enlightened as you possibly can, and you're never sure about the outcome. That's the way life works. But people who don't make decisions, they're not living life.
Right.
You know. So, but you're at an age where you've got a lot of time to make decisions.
For now.
Right. So take advantage of it. Trust me.
No, I'm trying.
I mean, once you get past where you are, man, and you start making those decisions, then there are certain avenues in life that are foreclosed to you. Because you can't do stuff reasonably forever. Or at least for a little while.
Right.
You know, you can always be 50 and go back to medical school.
Try to avoid that. But it is a possibility.
But you got the world's your oyster, man. You're like, you're an electrical engineer. Damn.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I'll speak to you again.
Please.
Okay, you know how to get out of this place?